Welcome back to Project Broken Unicorn, and behind me is the Broken Unicorn. She's in dry dock right now, waiting to get some struts on the front end. Before we get started, I just want to say, if you do like this channel, or if you do like what I'm putting out there, please like, subscribe, hit that little bell notification. It means a lot to me, all your support. Leave me some comments, let me know what I can do better, let me know what you want to see in the future, you know. I'm here to just have some fun with cars, and that's what we're going to do. Before we get started here, I just want to show you what I'm working with here. Not a whole lot of room. That should lead to some swearing later, but luckily it's mostly going to be on time lapse, so you won't hear that. First thing we got to do is we got to break these bolts loose because I do not have an impact, so we're going to break the bolts loose on the ground, then we're going to jack it up, get the wheels off, get started with the strut. Until then, let's do some time lapse. Alright, as you can see, I got the new to me, OEM wheels back on this thing. They're a huge improvement from what was on those 545 wheels. Going from the 545 wheels to this, though, these are 17s instead of 18s. Also, they're less wide, especially in the rear. So they only have 225s on them. Still, they handle pretty good. These are General G-Max all seasons. I got a pretty good deal on them. They had really good reviews online. I've been really happy with them so far. I only got maybe 100 miles on them right now, and they feel really good. They'll feel even better when they're broken in. They're nice and quiet on the highway. They handle well on the back roads. I'm pretty impressed with these. I like them. Now the wheels themselves, they got some issues. There's some curb rash on them. They're not as nice as I thought they were. I thought they were in really good condition. They're not in that good a condition, but they're not bad. I should be able to clean them up pretty nicely, and they'll look fine from 10 feet away. Also, they're OEM, so it doesn't give away anything that's going on with the car, which is kind of nice. Very nice and understated. I like them. I like the dual spoke design. That's kind of cool. The wheels are off. As you could probably see from the time lapse, I had some issues getting them off. For some reason, they just stuck to the hubs. I think it's due to the corrosion around here. I'll wire brush that, maybe put some anti-seize on it to keep it from doing next time. Just looking here inside here, you can see how bad that strut is. You can see it. Look at that. It's leaking all over the place. You can see it's wet up in there. It's really bad. And whoever worked on this thing, you can see they didn't even put that back in the bracket, neither did that. I mean, it's not how you work on a car. So I'm going to take a look at a few of the components, take a look at the brakes, make sure they look okay. From my understanding, how this works is you take the caliper off, you take the rotor off, you disconnect the sway bar right there. There's a pinch bolt down in here. You do undo that, you drop this down, and you can maybe get the strut out. If not, you got to compress the springs up there, and then that'll bring it up enough, and then you disconnect 3 nuts in the top here, and it should just drop right out. Just looking at that strut, that looks bad. But we got new struts. Springs look good. So, all new hardware, all new bolts. Got the dust covers, got new bushings, whole 9 yards for the struts, so it should handle pretty good after this. I'm going to show you how not to work on a car. So right here, that's an axle nut. So the stub of the axle is coming out right there, and the nut goes around it. Now normally, you beat in the nut right here on the flange to come into this little gap here. You do it on both sides, and the reason you do it is so that the nut doesn't back off and then you drop an axle or lose a hub. It's a huge safety thing to do this. The people that worked on this before me, I don't know what they did here. I don't know if they changed the bearing or what they did, but they didn't beat this back in. Yeah, don't do that. Before we move on, it's a good idea to go and break this nut loose. That's the nut for the top hat. You can see there's a bunch of debris and stuff in there. Not looking great. I already got the dust boot off, the dust cover, dust cap. And we're just going to go down in there, use my strut nut tool that I showed you in the last video, and pop that loose. Now, it's very possible you can loosen that without using the strut nut tool. A lot of times, it's so tight that you can just get a big enough socket on there and just crack it loose. But we're going to use the right tool just in case. All right, let's start working to get this strut out. So down at the bottom is a pinch bolt. You can see it right back there. We're going to take that off. Requires 2 wrenches, 1 on each side. And then there's the sway bar bolt nut. We're going to pop that off too. That requires a pretty skinny open end on the other side of that, and then just obviously a socket on that side to break it loose. Once that's done, we can move the entire knuckle down, and then we will undo the 3 bolts that are holding the top hat on, and it should come right out. Hopefully we don't need to get the spring compressor. This looks to be about as far as I can get with the strut because of the front control arm. You can see it's hitting right there, or at least it's close to hitting. So I got 2 choices. I can either take the front control arm off or compress the spring. Due to how corroded it was in the pinch, I'm thinking I'm going to take the front control arm off, but let's see here. I might try the spring compressor first. So as you can see, we got the strut off here, and we're gonna disassemble it. We take the top nut out here on the strut hat, and then this just slides off, spring slides off. Put it on the new one, new dust shield, new top hat, new nuts. Let's get to it. just want to stop and take a look at this strut. It's really bad. I should not be able to just push this down by hand this easily. I mean, it's shot. It's completely gone. This thing was definitely causing some issues on the car, guaranteed. You can see, and everything on this is very old, very brittle. Dust shield's completely gone. The bearing in here, it's like kind of grinding. That's not good. I mean, everything about this is bad. It's really good that I'm replacing this. All right, let's take a look at the new stuff I got here. So first of all, new strut, Bilstein B4. It should be pretty much OEM quality, and as you can see, that divot, that's on there. Pretty good strut, and yeah, I can push it down by hand, which you should be able to, but it's very hard. Not near like the old one. Got new dust boot, new spring pads here. Strut top hat, bearings nice and greased, all OEM quality here. The spring pads are actually BMW, so that is OEM there. New nuts for the strut hat, and this little curved washer thing. I don't know why it's curved, but I made sure to get the OEM one. So let's reinstall this. Oh, I'm reusing the old spring. I looked at it. There's no corrosion or anything on it. It's a spring. It should be fine. Yeah, there's no issues with that spring. So I'm gonna just reinstall the old spring. If it ends up having issues later down the road, I'll replace it then. Until then, OEM spring. So, one thing that I forgot, the bump stop. Now, I did some research on Bilstein struts, and my understanding is there's an internal bump stop inside here, so I figured I didn't need it. Turns out the bump stop is what holds the dust cover on, so without it, it just kind of flops around in there. So, I'm just going to install the old bump stop. I don't think it's going to cause any issues with the internal bump stop, at least it shouldn't. And it's kind of old, but it's not falling apart. You know, it's like plastic. So I think it'll be fine. Not ideal. Probably should have got the OEM bump stop. I did look at the prices, and these things are ridiculously expensive for some reason. Even though it's just like a piece of foam with like a rubber O-ring around it. I don't know. Either way, I'm gonna put this one back on. Shouldn't cause any problems. Alright, ran into another issue. So the top nut, the strut nut that was on the Bilsteins is actually a 22. My strut nut socket is a 21 because that's the OEM size. I assumed they were going to be the same. They're not. They're the same thread and everything. I could put the old strut nut on there, it would probably be fine, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to make a determination. Either I need to buy a new strut nut socket or get the OEM nut. Probably just going to get the socket because I can always just use that for other projects. But yeah, that's as far as I'm going to get today. It is what it is. I have to order new sway bar end links anyway because those are shot. So it looks like another parts order. Let's see who has the cheapest one. Ruffles. You gonna help me work on the car? Okay. Do you know what this is? No? Not a very good assistant.